Hi, I'm Alyssa Cobb. Come fly with AOPA. This week, we have tragic news that has devastated our AOPA family and the aviation community. AOPA Air Safety Institute Senior Vice President Richard McSpadden and former NFL player and longtime pilot Russ Francis were killed in an aircraft accident on October 1st. Richard and Russ were flying Russ's Cessna Cardinal 177 RG. They had taken off from Lake Placid Airport in New York's Adirondack Mountains. They were going to be participating in a photo shoot with AOPA. Russ's aircraft was actually going to be featured in a Destinations article about the Lake Placid area in an upcoming issue of AOPA Pilot magazine. Now, the plan was for Richard and Russ to join up with the photo ship, a Beechcraft Bonanza that had already taken off from the airport in reportedly good weather conditions. The lead NTSB investigator on site said that the Cardinal hadn't been in the air for long after takeoff before it apparently lost power and turned back to the runway. Witnesses said that one of the pilots had announced over the radio that the Cardinal had a problem and they were returning for landing. Russ was in the left seat and Richard was in the right seat. Now, typically on photo missions for AOPA, the owner of the subject airplane flies all phases of flight except for the formation portion of the photo shoot. However, it's not known who was flying the aircraft at the time of the accident. The NTSB said that the Cardinal hit a berm at the end of the runway and then fell 30 feet in a ravine. The NTSB will be releasing preliminary report in 7 to 10 days, and then in 18 months they'll issue the factual report with the probable cause. AOPA President Mark Baker had hired Richard to lead the Air Safety Institute in 2017, and he reflects on the legacy that Richard leaves.
We're looking for somebody that would bring energy and thoughtfulness to aviation safety, which is such an important part of AOPA's history, and do it in a way that would bring people's attention to how they can be better. And we found gold with Richard. He made a big difference in millions of people's lives and the way they think about aviation, and for hundreds of lives that experienced aviation differently because they thought differently every time they got into an airplane.
Richard had a way of sharing safety information that wasn't off-putting and that pilots of every skill level could learn from.
Richard was a very passionate guy, great communicator. And, he was so humble in the way he delivered the message in, what I call snackable levels, where people could bite onto this little piece and say, I was there, I know that, I could do this better. And his delivery and his essence, his knowledge about aviation and aviation safety, frankly, he's the best.
Many don't know, but Mark was actually the one who got Richard into two of his passions in aviation, backcountry flying and seaplane flying.
It was a new horizon for Richard, but boy, he went in headstrong on this whole thing. He rose to the top of the ranks of experienced aviators in the backcountry and float flying, and he enjoyed what that brought to his essence about knowledge about that kind of flying, but also he really enjoyed it, and he was great fun to travel with and a trusted, really good friend to fly.
Getting back in the air after learning this devastating news can be pretty difficult, but Mark shares what he thinks Richard would want us to do.
At the end of the day, I'd say if you really want to be safe, go fly. And that's what we owe to Richard's legacy, to go fly more, to be safe, to enjoy, to invite. He was one of the best.
Many AOPA members know Richard through his monthly columns in AOPA Pilot magazine, but hundreds of thousands of pilots and aviation enthusiasts also know Richard through his safety videos and flying adventures that have appeared on AOPA and the Air Safety Institute's YouTube channels and on AOPA's social media. Richard's goal was to connect with every pilot where they were, and he often did that through social media, all in the name of conveying aviation safety. Richard was often on this show as a special guest to talk about best practices in aviation safety, and he even graciously took time out of his busy schedule to occasionally co-host with me. We've compiled a tribute to Richard that shows his lifelong work to inspire others to fly, improve aviation safety, and make us all better pilots. Richard McSpadden was an aviation safety advocate, educator, accomplished pilot, U.S. Air Force veteran, family man, friend, mentor, colleague, and so much more. Richard came from a flying family, and he caught the aviation bug from his father, Richard Dick McSpadden Sr., and he loved to fly with his dad and his brother Cliff. The family connection ran deep. For a while, he even owned the 1950 Navion that was in his family for almost 40 years. Richard started flying in college, and he later joined the U.S. Air Force. He earned the call sign SPAD during his successful 20-year career.
I'm so thankful that I served in the military. It was service to my country, but it was also, honestly, service to myself. Has just made me a better person all the way around, a more disciplined person, a person who understood drive and work and teamwork and leadership and all those things I learned in the military, and I'm so thankful for that service.
Richard later served as the commander and flight leader of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds flight demonstration team in the early 2000s. He led 126 flight demonstrations in the No. 1 aircraft.
And you get to demonstrate the power, the pride, the precision of the United States Air Force. And it was really an honor. Not only enjoyed it, but it had a deep sense of meaning to me as a mission.
Richard's wife Judy was also in the Air Force. They were married for 31 years. And the McSpadden family aviation legacy continued on to Richard's kids. He taught both of their children, Annabelle and Grant, how to fly. In 2017, he came to AOPA to lead our safety education arm, the Air Safety Institute. He brought the Air Safety Institute into the YouTube era, introducing popular new video series such as Beyond Proficient, pilot short stories, and most recently, early analysis.
Let's take an early look at the Cessna 310 accident out of Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Richard offered viewers a facts-based approach to accident analysis, always with the goal of sharing a message to improve safety.
So what can we learn from this for the rest of us GA pilots?
Air Safety Institute material is now accessed 10 million times annually, and the fatal accident rate in general aviation decreased to a historic low under Richard's leadership. Richard also wrote articles and hosted videos sharing his love for flying. He shared with us what it's like to get a seaplane rating in a beautiful Beech 18.
It's hard to imagine an experience that enjoyable if you want to get a multi-engine seaplane rating. So this one's kind of for the romantics and the adventurers and people that just want to fly a piece of history. The Beech 18 is such a big part of history. It's so well loved by the pilots that fly it.
His passion for seaplane flying also propelled him to work to improve safety in that area of general aviation as well. Richard was on the board of directors for the Seaplane Pilots Association. The Air Safety Institute's Focus Flight Review launched under his leadership, and it included a special profile for seaplane operations, as well as emphasis on different types of flying, such as helicopter operations, instrument flying, but it also included another passion of his, backcountry flying. Richard met each summer with state aviation officials, pilot groups, and backcountry experts to promote backcountry safety and stewardship. He brought us a beautiful story about Fly Oz, where he got to explore the backcountry airstrips in the Ozarks.
Lucas, I don't know about you, but this is the first time I've ever flown with a former Thunderbird. I'll tell you what, this is one of the funner formations I've been in. It's a ton of fun.
Recently, Richard also got to fulfill a lifelong dream of his, and that was to fly a Beechcraft Staggerwing. He went up on a windy day with AOPA Editor-at-Large Dave Hirschman.
We're flying a Staggerwing, Dave.
Yeah, it's not. We've flown some fun planes together, haven't we? This is gonna be the coolest.
You got to be careful what you wish for in this life, you know. It just has a habit of happening.
Richard shared what it's like to fly a Fireboss airplane as well. He did that in a new Air Safety Institute YouTube series called Peak Performance.
Reflecting on this epic experience in the Fireboss and thinking about what I learned to help us improve our flying in general aviation. First, I was impressed by the strong fundamentals in dauntless pilots, basics in stick and rudder maneuvering, and a commitment to exacting standards to put the airplane exactly where they want it at the speed they want it.
Richard logged more than 5,000 hours in various civilian and military aircraft. He was generous with his time and his airplane. His disarming smile, contagious laugh, and magnetic personality immediately drew others to him. He would stop and take time to talk to anyone, and he approached people with grace and humility. He offered to take many flying and generously shared the keys to his airplane so that other pilots could experience one of his life's greatest joys, taking his Piper Super Cub up for a morning flight.
Gratitude consumes me when I fly my Super Cub. This bright yellow magic carpet that takes me to wondrous places physically and mentally. Morning flights are especially magical. The air is smooth. The Super Cub rigs so well that it's akin to having an autopilot. I can take my hand off the stick to sip some home-roasted coffee or adjust the satellite music flowing through my headset. I feel some warmth from the paltry cabin heat which knocks the chill off my legs in sporadic waves. I'm viewing an IMAX movie out my front windscreen, but I'm not just watching the action, I'm in it. Immersed in this spectacular panorama. The smells and sounds are real, and I'm so grateful to capture it. Well aware that it's transient, both in a moment and in a lifetime. Flying has brought so much to my life, in many ways has been my life. The feeling of gratitude to the many people who boosted me here comes back frequently. In ways it seems unfair that I was exposed to aviation and given opportunities few have, and I feel a growing urge to give back, cast a wider net, and expose more people to this splendid experience that can change the trajectory of a life. Flying inspires and fosters connection and a community, and we could use more of that now.
Richard was 63 years old. He's survived by his wife Judy, children Annabelle and Grant, his parents Richard Dick McSpadden Sr. and Ann McSpadden, and his siblings. To his family, we extend our heartfelt condolences, and we want you to know that you're in our prayers. And for all of you watching, please share a comment below of the impact that Richard had on your life, a memory, or something that you learned from his safety videos. This week, we leave you with some footage of Richard doing what he loved most, flying. In honor of Richard, go fly.